Hi guys, this is the second part of Genesis Lost in Translation. What I'm going to do today, I'm going to go over the 6 days of creation. And I'm going to show you how it fits and aligns with what science says about the creation of the universe and the creation of Earth itself, starting from the atomic level, which was a small part of what I talked about last time. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to do it real quick. That's the first day. And from the atomic level, we're going to go and move to the molecular level and matter as gas, liquid, and solid. And then the large formation of galaxies and the solar system and creation of Earth and atmosphere and living creatures up to the sixth day. So let's get started. First day. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And so we said last time that heavens is a place. That will be my sheet of paper over here. And the earth is matter. But at the beginning, matter was chaotic, formless, darkness over the deep. And so chaotic and formless, that will be the quarks, the subatomic particles, not yet combined into a proton, not yet real matter. And deep inside, there is only darkness, there is vacuum. They're not, that what tells us that they're not a full structure yet. They don't have a form. There is still vacuum in between. And Spirit of God is hovering over the water. That's a poetic way of saying wave, wind over water. In Hebrew, this word over here in gray square, that's the original word for spirit. That's the Hebrew word for spirit. But that's also the word for wind. And wind over water, that's a poetic way of saying a wave. And so we have a wave over water. And that's actually an electron around a proton of one atom of hydrogen. This is why it's called water, because we're talking about hydrogen, which is the basic building block of water. That's from the first video. And now what happens? God said, let there be light. But for that to happen, what needs to happen first, or what needs to happen as well, is that we need to have a collapse of the wave function of the electron. So the electron will have a specific energy level. That's, let's say, the highest energy level. That's a lower one. And so the electron now moves from one energy level to another, goes lower in energy, and that emits a photon outside. And so we have a separation between the darkness, which is the vacuum that is in the atom, to the light, meaning the emission was not inside towards the nucleus, but outside. So we have light, and we have an electron that went down in energy, and proton, altogether it's a hydrogen atom. And then we have the creation of time. God called the light day, the darkness he called night, and there was evening and there was morning, one day. Altogether we have one day. So we also have the creation and movement of time. And we understand from this sentence that there is evening and there is morning. Like I said, it happens automatically. Once you define time as a concept, once you have light as day and darkness as night, time unfolds by itself. It moves forward by itself. It doesn't need the help of anyone. And morning and evening are happening automatically because these are the borders between between day and night. Between day and night you have evening. Between night and day you have morning. And all four of those create one day. And so we move on to the second day. I'll move that a little bit higher. And that's the second day. And God said, let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water. So what we have here, I've also explained briefly last time. This is our vault. But the real word in Hebrew, rakia, is actually talking about a background. That's the background of the atom. That's the end, the border of the atom. And this border is what separates from water to water. From water with a plus sign over here to water with a minus sign over here. That's the word for water, same word. But between water to the water, because that's the water we've already talked about. This is the water we talked about. That's hydrogen, the water, and that separates between this and water, which is what we know today as water, and that's a molecule and not just a single atom. But to have a molecule, that means you need to have more than one atom, and what separates between one atom to another is this background, this vault. So there is a background inside the water with a plus sign, inside the atom, and that background is what separates from one atom to another. And verse 7, so God made, again, in Hebrew there is always and, not so God made, and God made the vault to separate the water under the vault from the water above it, and it was so. So this vault separates between this water, which is the water under the vault, and the water that are above the vault, which is water itself, the molecule. What happens is now it's just an explanation of what was said before, because on the 6th verse he said that there is and there should be, and on the 7th verse he does that. So he's creating that physically, this separation. And so God called this vault sky, or in Hebrew, as I said, sky, or what translated as heavens on the 1st verse, is actually the same word, shamayim, which is their water. And it's not for nothing that it's referred to as their water, because, as we said, this vault is what separates water as we know it from a hydrogen atom. And that's it. That's what he does for the second day. What he does, he's now moving is moving up in more complicated structures. And so on the first day we started by understanding the creation of a single atom from subatomic particles that are in chaos. Now we moved on the second day, we moved on to the molecular level. Okay? So now we have molecules. 9th verse. And God said, let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear, and it was so. I want you to understand this word. This word in blue square in Hebrew it's read as ikavu, translated as gathered. But this word has deeper meaning. Maybe the real meaning of that word in Hebrew is hoped. Yekavu, hoped. And so God said the water under the sky will hope to get to one place. Now, what is this hope? He's not saying that the water will just be in one place. He's not gathering them to one place. He's talking about a verb. This is a verb. He's giving some kind of power to the universe that will move things from being separated to move to one place, to being as one, to be as one. That force is not really a force, but it's more of a structure of the universe as we know today, and that's gravity. Now, that means in this sentence, he's actually telling us that the hydrogen atoms, those basic particles, those basic building block of every matter that we know today, will gather to one place. But not all of them will gather to one place, but they will hope to gather to one place. That means that they will have the will to combine with each other. And this is how we move higher in structures to more and more complicated structures by gravity. Atoms are being attracted to each other to create molecules. Molecules are being attracted to each other to create higher and higher formation and to move to higher structures as solid matters. And that's what he's telling us on the last word. Gather to one place and let dry ground appear. Because so far what we had hydrogen as gas. We had atoms of hydrogen combining to a molecule creating water, meaning liquid. And now he's talking about dry land. He's talking about solid matter. And that's what he's telling us. The water under the sky, not the water above the sky, not the water as we know it, the molecule, but the water under the sky, the water that are still one atom of hydrogen, still the basic building block. They will gather to create the liquid and the solid matters. And so he called this solid matter earth. God called the dry ground land. This word is sometimes translated as ground, sometimes translated as earth, sometimes translated as land. Not sure why, because it's one word. So God called the dry ground land and gathered the waters, and the gathered waters he called seas, and God saw that it was good. Okay, so what do we have so far? So far, we have the creation of space. We have the creation of matter, which is only quarks, but not really combined to anything. Then we have light, we have time, we have hydrogen as a gas, we have gravity that helps the atoms of hydrogen to create larger forms, more complicated structures like liquid and solid. So we have the basic understanding of the basic building blocks of our universe. We have the first building block, hydrogen, and it is explained to us that gravity, or the hope for the atoms to reach one place, is what helps create larger and more complex structures. Let's move on to next verse, 11. We are still on the third day. And God said, not then God said. And God said, let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants, and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kind, and it was so. The text is not the translation of the original text in Hebrew. That's an interpretation. That's not a translation. First of all, again, we're talking about Aretz being translated as land. And that's actually earth, or matter, or ground. Not sure why it's translated as land. I don't find this translation suitable. But produce vegetation, that's totally an interpretation. That's not what it says. What it says in Hebrew is, and God said, let earth grow grass, weed. That's the kind of grass we're talking about, grass weed. Not seed-bearing plants, but grass weed that seeds his seed. That's seeding and not seed bearing. He's not bearing it, but he's seeding it. Seeding it in the ground, in this ground that produced, let's say, produced. You can see that's the same word, grass. So it's like a verb of the word grass. It's grassing. The ground is grassing, grass weed that is seeding seed. Fruit tree makes fruit as its kind, that his seed is in it on the earth. It sounds complicated. That's not an easy thing to understand. When you translate it to English, you already use an interpretation, and everyone who reads only the English text reads only this specific interpretation, that the land produces vegetation, seed-bearing plants, and trees on the land. But it doesn't say that the trees are on the land. It said that the seeded in it on the land. What does that mean? Let me show you what I believe it means if we're looking at things as we've already did. So what we have right now, we have some kind of earth, matter, that is grassing grass weed. Grassing grass weed So if that's our seed, because this grass weed is seeding the seed, that should be something like that. Grass weed that is stuck to the seed in the earth. So this earth is seeding growing grass all over it. Something like that. Grass is coming out, weed is coming out from this seed. But another very important understanding on why it looks like this weed, why it looks in this shape, is because the word seed in Hebrew can also be translated, or this word seeding seed. The word seeding is also creating arms. The arm, or let's say like an octopus tentacle, and this is an arm coming out of the seed. Okay, so the seed, the earth, is sending out arms. The earth is sending out, is growing arms. And it's not growing weed and trees. It's growing arms, fruit trees. So every arm is actually a tree, a fruit tree that makes tree of his kind with a seed in it. So on every one of those arms we have fruits with a seed inside, and it's of the same kind. So it looks somewhat similar to our main structure. What you have here is what is referred to in chaos theory as a fractal. That's a shape that is made from smaller shapes, shapes like it. Okay, maybe I can just look in Google for a fractal. You will see what I mean. A big shape that is constructed from smaller shapes that look like the same one. But actually what we have here, it's not the whole verse. So we have this earth that brings out grass that is actually arms, that is actually a tree with fruits on it of the same kind, with a seed inside that sends, like we said, this word is also arm. So the seed sends arms on earth. So somewhere here, let's say we have earth, and the arms of this fruit are on earth. And it was so. And that, my friends, that is the Milky Way galaxy. A very big seed sending arms, and on one of those arms we have the solar system, and the sun itself is sending its arms, its light beams on earth. And each of one of those arms is a tree with many fruits, many solar systems that are sending their light, their beams of light on their planets. And so we have somewhat beautiful poetic explanation of how the largest structures of this universe are actually built. The galaxies, solar systems on arms of a seed, and those solar systems are with a seed inside a sun that is sending its own arms, its beams of light on Earth. So we get to Earth. Now we understood how a galaxy looks like. And the last explanation that we need is to get one level lower to talk about our solar system. And so we reach that's two last verses of third day. Land produces vegetation, plants bearing seeds. Actually creates that. It's creating this structure, and that's the third day. And God saw it as good. And now we have the fourth day. And the fourth day, I'm not going to read it all, but he now creates our solar system, our specific solar system, our sun, Earth, moon, and planets, and all together that's the creation of the fourth day. No lot of reason to get into it, but what I want to show you is little proof of what I said before. I told you that in this phrase in Hebrew, his seed on earth, it's and that I want to tell you that it was translated in a, let's say as an interpretation, and not as it's possible to understand it in the Hebrew text, because it's translated in English on the land. This phrase, on earth, on the land. But if you look here, you will see that it's the same phrase, on earth, on earth. Look at the letters, the Hebrew letters. It's the same phrase. Once translated as on the land, second time translated as on the earth. That's the problem with the translation. The translation is already trying to interpret what the Hebrew words are telling us, and it does not allow the English speaker to try and interpret that for himself. And here you have give light on the earth, and that's exactly what I told you that is happening here, sending his arms on the earth, the fruit, yeah, the fruit, not the trees on the earth, but the fruit that is bearing seed. This seed is sending his arms on the earth, and that's the light beams of the sun. So we have the first 4 days. But now it gets a little bit messy. So far, we understood how God created the space, the matter, created gravity, created gas, liquid, solid matters, created light, created time, created galaxies, created the solar system. and the planets. And now we're going to start talking about the creation of Earth itself. But for that, we need to move backwards to the first day. But how could we have known that we should move forward to the first day? Well, that because the creation, Genesis, and all those 6 days of creation are being interpreted in 2 ways. And I want you to think of it like train track that can be deflected from one path to another. This is the switch. Switch is the 3rd day. Once, when you're interpreting the whole story as the creation of the universe, then the train of universe interpretation goes on one track to the 4th day. But then you move on to the interpretation as to interpret the whole story as the creation of the world, and you start from the beginning. But the 3rd day is now taking you to the 5th day. How could you have understood this story? How can you see from the text that the 3rd day is actually a switch that moves you from one path to another? Well, in Hebrew, we'll look at the 3rd day. I want to show you. We look at the 3rd day and we say that Tuesday is twice as good. The reason we say Tuesday twice as good, for the simple reason, because on the 1st day, God says, good. It was good. 2nd day, he says nothing. He does not say it was good, just it was evening and morning, 2nd day. But on the 3rd day, he says on the 10th verse that it is good. And it says it again on the 12th verse. 12th verse, it was good. So on the 3rd day, he says twice that it was good. Now, it is asked why. Why he's not saying about the 2nd day. He's not saying it was good, but says it twice on the 3rd day. So the simple reason for that is that because he did not finish. On the 2nd day, what he's working on, what he's creating is water, right? He's gathering the water to one place. He's talking about water. That's the main theme. And the 3rd day, or the beginning of the 3rd day, he's still talking about, that's the 2nd day. He creates the vault, separates between water to water, and then on the 3rd day, he continues to gather the water to one place. And so he's still talking about water, still working on water. And only in the middle of the 3rd day, he moves on to talk about this earth that is growing grass, weed, seeding seed. And that happens still on Tuesday, still on the 3rd day. And so this simple explanation that he just did not finish water yet, and he could not say that it is good, it's a little disrespecting God, I think. If God wanted to finish things on the 2nd day, he would have. But he didn't, and he didn't for a reason. He actually decided to finish on a 3rd day and tell us that the 3rd day, Tuesday, is twice as good, because Tuesday has 2 different interpretations. Once this day takes you on the right path to understand the creation of the universe. And the second time, the third day, takes you on a path to understand the creation of the world. And on my next video, which I'll make soon, I will take you on the second path from creation of the world till creation of men. Thank you very much for now.